Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Rob.
And this is Ask Rob and Rob.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ask Rob and Rob, the show where you get your property questions in and we give you some answers in return. This format's been running for a long time now. We're nearly at 400 episodes. Wow. But let's make sure we get there and answer some more questions. But before we do, a quick reminder on how to get your question on the show.
Yep, hasn't changed in all this time. Just give us a call on 013 808 00035 or go to propertyhub.net/ask. And it helps if you ask a question about one of our specialist subjects, which Alex helpfully has done.
Hi, Rob and Rob. Alex here from Liverpool. Firstly, I want to say thank you so much for the content you've been providing for the last 3 years. I've been listening to the podcast. Now, for context, my business partner and I are considering buying a property near Lark Lane in the Sefton Park area. We're thinking about using the property as a holiday let on Airbnb. So my question for you is, would you consider areas outside of the city centre as profitable for holiday lets or short stays? And would you require a holiday let mortgage? If you think the buy-to-let mortgage would be more preferable, I'm renting out some periods of the year on Airbnb. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thanks again, guys.
Well, Rob, as our resident Liverpool expert, take it away.
A fine city. Over to you, Rob.
Oh, okay. Well, yes, that we can agree on. Alex, thank you for your question. Great choice, Liverpool. But in all seriousness, the area that you are looking at is a wonderful area. I'm sure that you have done some research and that's what's led you to consider the area. Lots of wine bars, restaurants in Lark Lane, beautiful park, Sefton Park, but it's still quick to get into the city. It's an area that I would seriously consider a buy-to-let in. Would I consider a holiday let? Well, I don't know. And it's not because I'm unsure of the strategy, it's I'm unsure of the demand. So what I would do if I was to venture into an area that I'm not that familiar with is find a way to test some adverts in that area. Now, you might not be able to log on to Airbnb and put a fake property on, but there are other holiday rental websites. And you could start to see what sort of demand you get for a property that is very similar to the type of property that you're looking at. Or you could just go onto Airbnb, check the local area out, check to see what is booked up. And again, it'll give you a sense. Now, doing both of those checks won't give you a complete answer, but it should be a good guide. So the area is great. I can confirm that. It's close to the city, so I could see why it would work for a holiday let, but just do that research to give yourself more confidence. And on your question about mortgages, yes, you will need a mortgage that is for holiday lets specifically. A normal buy-to-let lender will probably not allow you to do an Airbnb. They are there for normal buy-to-lets. And if you try to use a buy-to-let mortgage and then go on to let it out through Airbnb, that could be considered as mortgage fraud. So I would strongly recommend that you use a mortgage broker that is familiar with holiday lets and holiday let mortgages and let them guide you through this process because it is a very specialised area.
Okay, let's move on to our second question. This one is from Damien.
Hi, Rob and Rob. Damien here. First of all, thank you so much for everything you do on the podcast and education-wise, absolutely fantastic. My question is, I'm seeing more and more properties for sale via the protocol of modern method of auction. Can you just give us a bit of background on what this actually means and what the guide price on these properties means as well? Is it an absolute minimum? Will they not potentially accept the price? That's a guide price. Any information on your experience on this protocol that's being used and also the buyer's fees involved as well. Thank you.
Damien, you're right. There are more and more properties being sold this way. Is that because it's good for you as a buyer? No, probably not. It doesn't mean that I wouldn't buy this way, but there are things to watch out for. So basically, like any auction, the vendor and the auctioneer set a guide price, and that guide price is basically your teaser price. There's also a reserve price, which is the price at which they will not sell below. Then there's a process which is sort of an auction, but kind of not really, because at a proper auction, it all happens at the same time. Then when it's done, it's done. With this, it happens for some number of weeks, and it can be extended, and it can also be finished early. So I question whether it is a true auction. But then you get to the bit that matters for you as a buyer, which is if you place the winning bid, you then have a fixed time frame in which to complete, and you have to put down a non-refundable fee. These two factors are both very relevant. The fee is relevant because it tends to be pretty chunky. And this is why agents like to use these, especially for cheaper properties, because rather than charging the vendor 1 or 1.5%, which could be not much, and they might consider that a lot of money, they could charge you, the buyer, $5,000, and it's easier for them to win the instruction because the vendor isn't paying. Also, because it's non-refundable, if you subsequently find out something about the property that you don't like, you may struggle to get that back. It'll depend on the wording of how it's drafted. They're all a little bit different, but that's something you need to be very careful of. You might also have an issue with the amount of time that you have to complete. So if you're using a mortgage, you need to be very confident that you can get that arranged within the time. So you're right, you are seeing more of these. For me, it's not a case of stay well away, but you do need to be careful, be wary of that time frame, make sure you've got all the information you need before you bid, and factor that extra fee into your calculations, because you might see something that looks like a great deal, but by the time you put the auctioneer's fee on top, it's less so. So hopefully, Damien, that gives you what you need to start picking your way through some of this, and whether it's through that method or another one, finding the right deal for you.
And I've got a great deal for you all. How about a wonderful podcast on Thursday? Because you know what? We'll be back on Thursday with another pod. And this Thursday's episode is a cracker. So make sure you join us for that. And of course, we'll be back with Ask Rob and Rob next week. So we'll speak to you then. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.